ready to go.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the Redevelopment Commission meeting together for April 8th. It's 3:30, and we will do roll call. Mark? Here. John is not here, but we are expecting him. Barry?
Here.
I am here. Kevin? Here. Bill? Here. And Retha?
Here.
So we have confirmation of quorum. The minutes are in front of you guys. Had a good meeting last meeting. I am just looking for a motion to approve those minutes. If we have any discussion.
Make a motion to approve them.
Mark makes a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
All right, no one has discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carry on. Old business. So we talked last time. Kevin, I'm going to catch you up real quick. You were in a meeting. We had an executive meeting, and we're given some insight onto what developers look like or are looking for. And the thought was, hey, developers are looking for not just, shovel-ready sites, but they want to know that the infrastructure is there and some of those things. So last meeting, which we talked about, you can see in the minutes, Amanda came in from the city engineer's perspective, and she spoke for the wastewater and sewer as well. But then water superintendent was here too, and we talked to them. They had just had a study done on the sewer within the last year. Did I get my dates right? Within the last year, and have an idea what that capacity is. The question was, what is it going to take to do that with the water? So we asked Mitch. Mitch had had a quote to do the same work with the same firm. Tried to figure out, just to know. I think John kept asking that question, which was correct. Where are the bottlenecks going to present themselves next? So anybody jump in if I say any of this wrong. So this study would show, hey, here's where you're at. Future bottlenecks are going to be here. You have the capacity for this, but once you get to that point, we're going to have an issue. That study was sent out through email. We had all seen it, and it was a pretty comprehensive scope. It was at a cost of $63,600, I believe. Yep. You gave it to me, but I think that's what it was. We had asked Mitch if his department would be willing to support some of that cost as well, and he said he would. Yes, but he wasn't sure of that amount at that point in time.
He came back to me today and I will just say too, Amanda did a very detailed step through the sewer master plan on all the graphs and the areas for potential growth, which is pretty much the same thing that we would get with the water study. But he came back to me because, again, so we turn our budgets in July. We're like July to July. So this was not budgeted, but he recognizes the need. We recognize the need. He came back with $20,000 that he could put toward it. It's very possible that I can find about that in mine too, if I need to help with that, because I do feel like it's an economic development tool. Isaac had pointed out when I talked to him earlier, there are some planning grants like with Region 3A that can be pulled. Amanda and I had a discussion about those, and a lot of times, this is a whole master study of the whole community, plus potential annexed areas. We're doing a lot. So a lot of times Region 3A wants to, they like you to have a specific project with a study that you're doing. This isn't that, but I think that is a great resource to potentially use. Like if we do this entire community master study and go, hey, now we know we have this project here and we've got some detailed potential growth, some services that might need, what can we do? I think that they could help with some grants to get those specific studies done. I just don't know that we can utilize them with this one as easy.
Okay.
So again, potentially I could find 20.
Okay.
So let me, it's up to you guys what you want to put in on this. I did not get the financial report I explained to you just a minute ago. Ryan wasn't able to print it. I think I put the dollar amount where we were
It's in the minutes, right? Yep.
from the last one. I don't know if there's been a disbursement, I don't think, but.
So the way it reads now is with Mitch's, with the water department's input, we're $43,600 shortfall of doing the project. Rita's sharing that, hey, there's potential for other funds to come through there as well. Do we want to have any further discussion around what that, or Kevin, you weren't here, what questions do you have in regards to that, if you have any?
No, and I think it's about to that previous meeting we had with the other area representatives of saying this is what you need to show people coming in, and it's getting that developed and ready to go. So if this is what we need, now, no further questions.
I was kind of prepared to come to the meeting and make a motion that we would we would pay half of it if we could get the matching funds to get the other half paid. After listening to Retha, I don't know if we need to do that much, but I felt comfortable doing half of it, especially if we could get the other half in matching dollars.
That was my thought as well. That's kind of what I had prepared for. And what Rita just shared and Isaac could share with her too. I think, yeah, grants can't come for these dollars, but having this in place and showing we already have this in place when you do go for some other grants will also be a deciding factor in some of those grants once applied for. Oh, they've already invested this much and the answers are there. So I think it could be beneficial, not just to developers, for anything else we're doing in the future too. For other
And
funds.
you're absolutely right, Eric, because I feel like with that study, we learned where our bottlenecks were. We learned potential, like those areas for growth, what could happen if we could service that. But we also learned that a lot of our existing infrastructure is over 100 years old. So the cost breakdown was in that study of what it's going to be to replace existing old infrastructure too, which might be where grants and some other things come from for help with that. So
Have there been any previous studies on the water and sewer before?
Bill, do you know when the last time, if we've done like a full master plan of sewer or water?
Well, probably before I retired, so, that's 10 years or so.
Yeah,
But
it's,
this could be a baseline then for future
yes, absolutely.
developments to go from there, saying this is where we're at this point in time.
There was, I remember there were like master plans done, but been a while.
Yeah.
There are, timing wise too, I'll just say that whether this affects it or not, I know Retha can speak to, there's been several calls recently on development, which could affect us, but there's also a fair amount of bare ground within proximity to this city that has recently hit market that would be valuable to have this stuff in place too. Now that's potential for residential, right, which isn't necessarily falling us, but that drives other economic factors too. So I don't know if there's a motion in place, but I think it's great that two different departments want to work together with Retha and Mitch working together. It doesn't always happen. And if we can jump in and saddle that up, I think that'd be great. So
I will officially make a motion that we commit half of the 63.6 with the understanding that Mitch and Amanda and Retha will come up with matching funds
So
in some form or fashion.
can we amend that we will make the second half match?
Yeah, I
Can
think
that be
if
amended
we're,
to say that?
Say up to half of
Yep.
other funds can be found.
Perfect. So to
okay,
reiterate,
so reiterate
Mark
the
has made a
motion.
motion to match up to half of the $63,600 once he'll match the funds that are raised, whether they come from wherever they come from. Did I say that correctly?
I'll second.
Bill gives a second.
I was waiting for you, Karen.
I was waiting on you.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, you know what we just did? We just did something. We just did something. You know, we're paying,
Congratulations.
we've only done something for consultants in the past. And yeah, they're a consultant, but I still feel like we did more than a consultant this time. I think this will be good, so.
No, I think this will be a good step forward for, I mean, all of our departments and our economic development and our whole community to just kind of understand what that looks like. And yeah,
I don't know about you guys, but I was pleasantly surprised
Hey, Amanda,
to hear.
you can finish it. Amanda needs it. We just, I saw you walking by and I can tell you, we just did something. So we're excited we did something.
Okay,
So
I'm glad
based-
you did something too.
Based off your information you shared with us last time
Okay,
we met was, we were able to, Mark made a motion, we've just passed a motion to match up to 50% of those funds that Mitch is requesting.
okay,
So I think we
awesome.
can make that happen with what he's doing, what Rita is up to do. So
Okay.
thanks for your time
Absolutely.
last time.
No,
It was
thank you,
instrumental in I wouldn't understand.
What,
You translated
so well.
that we understood.
Good.
That's
Good.
I'll speak for this group. That's good. So,
Do
thank you.
do you guys need, anything else? And maybe Retha and I can discuss it in terms of like coming back with an actual contract or anything else?
I think,
The motion is good and we just.
The motion is good up to a dollar amount based on, we based it off the scope that we were sent.
Okay, which has not changed with them. And they were aware of the situation, so they're just kind of in a hold until
Perfect.
we get back to them. So.
and I believe on that scope of work on that contract at the bottom, they said that they would come up with an actual service contract or something once that's done. This motion is passed, so it'll just be what my department, what Mitch's department is willing to put in, and then we'll see what we need to do to get the money from the TIF fund.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess the other, just as a side, need to decide or define if like I need to come back for payment. Because I know when we did a project before, the board passed a motion that allowed me to pay the bills and not come back to the board and say, we have an invoice for this amount, can we pay it?
Yes, because if you guys read that scope, they are going to bill us monthly as they do work.
Yeah.
So a motion that Amanda can review that, I can review, whatever, like together.
We'll have to
we can
release
say.
the funds is what has to happen.
Yeah.
So let's confirm with Ryan what that process is.
Okay.
Unless you know for sure. I don't know exactly what that process is.
I don't know exactly. I know when we used funds for the bridge project, it was kind of a flat, like, you're good up to this dollar amount, and if there was a scope change or overages or things like that, I had to come back to the board and discuss that, but paying the normal bill that was in that contract, we just did that,
Okay,
so.
Okay,
great.
yeah, I like that.
And
Thank
and you will check with the mayor at some point, because this is noteworthy. And for people to know that the city is being proactive in determining the future of the city. So I checked with him, but I think that's noteworthy and that should be published at some point in time.
But I would, yes, and I would think, we'll have to get the specifics, but that may have to go to council for the other half of the funds, so that would be a good time to,
Okay,
that would be another public.
Announce it at a public meeting.
yeah, however
Get
that.
announced, this is how we're funding it, this is why we're doing it, things like that. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, all right, thank you guys.
John, you have to wait for another 2 years till we do something again, because you just did something. Son of a gun. There was a motion on the table and it passed to cover
the water study.
cover 50% of the water study. Mitch was able to come up with 20,000 of the 63.6. And Retha said she thought she could come up with roughly another 20,000.
Oh, okay.
So we did 50% match,
Nice.
and they will figure out the rest.
And I was gonna say, I don't know what you guys were thinking coming into the meeting, but I was prepared to make a motion for half.
Yeah.
But I didn't think half would be near enough. And it sounds like with what Mitch is coming
Yeah.
up with, and I
think
was
it's great.
pleasantly surprised that it was less.
I think it's great. So.
Sounds like momentum.
Perfect. Isaac, we're gonna give the floor over to you.
Do you guys want to tell Isaac why you asked for him to be here? Because I kind of just said,
I
hey,
can
the
shoot
board
from the
wants.
hip. So you heard a little bit what was just going on.
Yeah.
Other counties, other developers say, hey, you hear it all the time. well, how ready is it? What does it mean to be ready? And we can answer the questions from the city side.
Yeah.
Now we're asking, hey, what is gas and electric or whatever you came prepared with? Because everything we read depends where you read it, right?
Yeah.
So give us your latest.
Don't go to social media for anything.
Is the bubble considered social media?
Even our social media page. No, I'm kidding. No, you're absolutely right, Eric. Thank you. I appreciate coming before this body. It's actually the first time I've come before this body in a long time. So I appreciate being able to give an update. Eric's absolutely correct. When we do economic development, over the last 9 years, what we've tried to do is be proactive when we can, where possible, with many of our utilities. Specific to the city of Angola, I used to be able to say just specific to the water. We had about 1 million gallons of untreated water every day that we paid for that was not going out into the market. That's a significant amount. It's actually a commodity that I can use in economic development to secure new investment if it's a high user of water. If we have another site that we could put an industrial building, has access to the infrastructure, all the other things that happen in economic development come into play. Mark's been on our board for a while in terms of economic development, so he's heard some of this stuff. But I'm here to talk a little bit about economic development to kind of bring the curtain back a little bit and get out from behind it and kind of elaborate a little bit to what we do in terms of other infrastructure pieces. If at any point you have questions, stop me and ask me. I'd much rather have dialogue than just sit up here and give a presentation. I also put in front of you 2 updates that I've provided to our board. The first is I love to write stuff. So the first is a TDIS overview. It's an exec summary of a much, much longer document. You probably never heard the acronym TDIS. Mark's probably heard it too much that we've talked about it so much. I can't even tell you right now what that acronym stands for because I've just started to say the acronym rather than actually spelling it out. It's a process, though, that is here in the state of Indiana. Our utilities, electric and gas, have to go in front of the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission to get major projects approved. Our utility companies are allowed to, in this TDIS process, to bunch a bunch of economic development projects together, including system and deliverability projects, into an overall rate case. You've heard through the news on many different occasions over the last 5 years, rate case is being approved, and you've probably felt it in terms of your pocket if you're paying a utility bill. Those rate cases coming to the forefront. What's misunderstood is the rate cases themselves that have been previously approved are not the only reason those utility bills have gone up.
So a rate case is when the regulatory agency goes before the state to increase.
It's when the
to have
utility
authorization to increase their rate.
Utility
When the utility company goes in front of the regulatory body, which is called the IURC.
IURC.
Let's put it into an actual project. So I'll use this as an example. This is about a $700 to $800 million rate case proposal by NIPSCO. The example I've set before you, or I shouldn't say the example, the one that was actually presented in December. What a rate case allows a utility company to do is spread the cost of those projects embedded in that case against the whole user base, the whole customer base. In this case, it's about 44 counties that have NIPSCO service clients. Different than a targeted economic development project, or what they call TED. Gotta love the acronym. That is very specific to the project that Retha gave a moment ago, to where there's a said project at the end of the hook. And in rural markets like ours, often that said project is not enough to do large system deliverability and transformation projects like what we have before us. The project that we need to happen eliminates a lot of bottlenecks by repositioning the flow of how the gas gets to our end users. So this document kind of talks about that process, and the rate case has to be formally approved by the rate commission, the IURC commission, and in this case now the way that it's set up, our governor. Historically, I've always argued that rate cases, when they go specifically about the impact on Steuben County, we have had less, in my opinion, we have had less in those prior rate cases truly impact Steuben County than this one's offering us today. Matter of fact, this one's offering us a deal that I never thought we would have even had the opportunity for. Steuben County project embedded in this rate case roughly is about a $53 million expense that is being borne by all the ratepayers in and outside of Steuben County versus Steuben County just handling a $53 million project alone. So much like this water study, we've evaluated at least the 9 years that I've been in this position. I'm sure enough, I think confident to say at least 8 of those years I've been battling with NIPSCO about trying to add more capacity to our market. There's been things that have happened in the background in terms of a task force that came and has gone with little movement. Now to the point where we've gotten some pretty good dialogue. Our county commissioners went forward with the help of the communities, including the city of Angola, and did an engineering services agreement with NIPSCO about a year ago. It was $1 million of expense that they proceeded with to get to this solution, which was a 9-mile pipe to kind of reverse the flow. And that actually got us into the point and position to where in December, NIPSCO felt confident enough to put a TDIS filing together and include our project entirely. So I know it doesn't do enough to give you an example or at least give you a true dissertation of what that TDIS process is. Where it goes from here is in December it was filed. There's a process of evidential, producing evidence both from NIPSCO's side, from what's called the OUCC, or excuse me, the Office of Utility and Consumer Counsel. I had to get that acronym right. And our major industries, or the major industries within the state. All of these folks intervene in these cases, in these TDIS filings. So they went through a process of that intervention. Now they're at a point, I believe, I want to say April 17th, of what's called an evidential hearing. That is a public hearing that will be done down in Indianapolis about this case. So all the rebuttals and everything will be submitted by then and reviewed by the IURC, with the hopes that sometime at a later date this spring, if not early summer, we'll know thumbs up or thumbs down of whether it gets funded and this project inside of it is funded. The TDIS filing also puts a deadline of when projects have to be completed, which is at the end of the program period for a specific TDIS. In this case, this project would be done and gasified by the end of 2030. That is really important because as long as Mark and I have been around in terms of dealing with this NIPSCO conversation, that is the closest date we've ever had for a large project like this to be completed.
If this project is completed in just say 3 years, if it's done, does that solve all the problems that we have here?
For gas, it solves the problems for an estimated 20 to 25 years, yes. If we grow at what we're capable of, the one thing we learned in the past is we'll be able to, like you've just talked about with water upgrades, as projects come along, we'll be able to hopefully build in capacity along the way versus where we just got to the point where our capacity was exhausted, period.
What percentage of these TDIS filings are typically approved versus disapproved, or maybe you don't know?
Since they've been able to be presented to the state, which I believe is in the early 2010s, I don't know of one that's not been approved. Many of them get modified. And the state reserves the right to do that. IURC gets the opportunity to do that. But worst case scenario, it gets modified. But I think we've elevated our project specifically, and LaGrange kind of tied at the hip. LaGrange County has a project that's similar. I think both of our projects have moved from just economic development concerns to system and capacity and sustainability fixes, which broadens the scope of the project and improves our ability. So, ask your question.
This is a $53 million project for Steuben County.
Correct.
Total TDIS.
It's somewhere between 700 and 800 million. So there's a lot of stuff.
Is that a typical size?
Yeah, they've been as high as just over $1 billion.
Okay.
And again, it's what each utility company can do. In our case, because we're serviced by NIPSCO, it's what NIPSCO produces. So when I say we, Steuben County EDC is not part of that. This comes directly from the utility companies.
So this is 9 miles coming from the west.
In theory, it's coming from the west.
So that brings capacity to the county to wherever it gets to. from our side, from a development side, there'll be infrastructure cost for new development on top of this.
Indiana code.
Is that correct?
Indiana code allows, and the state statute allows currently utility companies to charge up to 52% of the cost to construct on any given project.
Correct.
There will still be some of that, and I would encourage that because that helps us along the way to add capacity. What it won't, or what it will fix too, is those additional charges that we've been stuck with historically on projects all across the county, to where it's above that 52%. And that's been, I mean, in 1 year alone on 3 different projects, it was an additional $1 million that our local company spent, including one municipality or one governmental agency, just to get gas to the project. Again, I'm an economic developer who doesn't like to build pipes just to anywhere. I mean, I think you need to build infrastructure to where it's going to be utilized and used. That's the philosophy of most of our utility companies. But some of the things we've seen in the past by utility companies all across the state have made you question and wonder, how does this math figure? Because I can't get it to, and I'm pretty good at math, but I can't figure out how it makes sense.
So a follow-up to that, knowing some of the projects that you're referring to, infrastructure wasn't provided necessarily to those facilities at times. So it was off-site, it was saying capacity was available, correct?
There were projects that were being requested to fund, a cost of construction fee was being tacked on, that improvements were done 6-7 miles away.
Correct. So my question is then, what stops that from happening in the future? If capacity is now, making this up, right, if capacity is here in our county, the infrastructure is all here. It's I mean, not all, but a lot of the infrastructure is in place. That's been shown with these other projects, but capacity was the issue. So if this solves the capacity issue, but it's not gonna solve the infrastructure, it's not gonna solve them from charging infrastructure costs. Is that what I'm hearing?
They still have the ability. Indiana code allows them to charge up to 52%. What we'll see less of is more of those project costs being so far away to more of them being on site where they should traditionally be.
Actually be related to it, yeah.
You know, I'm 1,100 feet away from the road, so I got to bury a pipe 1,100 feet. That's reasonable. A meter upgrade, that's reasonable.
Understandable.
Upgrading a full system infrastructure on one project, having to bear the cost of that, that's not. And we've always argued that. The benefit we have in Steuben County, and as long as we've argued this position, we have all this institutional knowledge that protects us from those situations. So if we start to hear, and this is why we've been pinging our industries more often than most. Our industries are really good at telling us, hey, this is what happened. This is what's going on. Here's what we need. So not only are they telling us what future projects they're looking at doing that are going to request additional capacity, they're also telling us what they've experienced with these various utility companies. Not every utility company is the same, by the way, across the state.
So of those millions that have been spent over the last 3 years for this, are those all sunk costs that are not going to be utilized in the future when this is in place?
I would
value added from those once this is all.
There is value added. What I would say is they are sunk costs and you should not expect them back. But they didn't go without getting some sort of benefit from them. We have a lot of institutional knowledge about the way the system works, where future concerns might be, and hopefully as we stay diligent on this process, as your EDC stays diligent working with the city and other communities across the county, we won't forget those.
If you guys can ask any more questions on gas, I'm asking, but I'm ready to switch to electric. If you guys are, anybody know anything? Anybody got more questions?
I mean, I guess I'd like to know a few of the details. When the projects went on to the south of here, for example.
Yes.
I've only heard rumors that it went from a 6-inch to a 12-inch pipe. Should roughly quadruple to quintuple your capacity.
Oh, so now you get into hydraulics.
All the way. That is compressible flow.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty documentable. Part of this conversation.
Was that pipe enlarged all the way up?
No, 7,500 feet.
So it was just a capacitor.
Think of it as building an extra capacity past the meter off of the main line that comes from the east. And
It's a ballast tank.
It is. It's a banking system, so as the flow, the pressure up north of it is pulling, it can pull from the bank rather than at the meter.
Yep.
Okay. That's why I said you get a little bit into hydraulics, which is all things that I had to learn through this process 8 years ago. The other problem.
But it actually didn't solve the bottleneck.
No. This was.
And now their proposal is that's not actually the optimal way to solve the bottleneck. It's to come in from the west.
Correct. It's a brand new pipe, 325 PSI.
It was known at the time that was never the solution, but that was the correct.
The cheapest short-term fix.
That was
or
the cheapest Band-Aid.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That is fair. That's absolutely fair.
I know this is kind of a loaded question before we move on. How would you, if, and I know there's no right answer, but if you had to put a number to how much business the utility issues have cost us in the last 5, 6, 7 years, what would your answer be?
I stopped counting in 2020 right before COVID because I reached $1 billion of lost opportunity cost. I figure at that point, what's the point of continuing to count?
Yeah, that's my point is I don't think people really understand how much we could have grown, this market could have grown.
In 23 years of economic development projects that our organizations has participated in, we are now just approaching $1 billion of actual invested projects. So to sit there and say, when I stopped counting from 2016 to 2020, lost opportunities of $1 billion, most of those projects, not all of them, most of them were expansion projects of local companies that could have expanded here, that wanted to expand here. We had several companies across the county where corporations are not in Steuben County or even in Indiana saying we'd love to invest, but without capacity, we're going to take it somewhere else. So that's how we were accounting for that. I did
And
not.
that's looking at commercial and industry, not even
Only.
housing subdivisions that were turned away.
And more so industrial. It wasn't even really commercial. We did a few commercial
Yeah,
projects, but it was mostly industrial projects. Yeah. So a lot of investment. Economic development projects,
We got a really good success rate when we
pay attention and take care of who's already here and make sure we're paving the way to allow those companies to expand. It gets harder when you go out to the open market, but only about 10 to 15% of the actual projects that ever exist go to a leads-based process that come through the state or through other entities that provide leads in economic development. That's all my counterparts chase after. I don't like chasing after 10 or 15% of the deals. I like chasing after the ones that are right here in our backyard. And then let's use a scalpel approach. And Mark's heard me say this. Let's take a look at some of our industries that are parallel to our industries that we have today. Let's look up and down their supply chain and see what makes sense to bring us closer. What things can we do that brings the type of organizations closer, that diversify us a little bit, but build and enhance and build in some resiliency of what we already have. That's a success in the rural market. And I'll give you a good example. Anybody know what Taskmaster does here in Angola?
Tires on rims?
Have you been in that facility yet?
I can't remember. I was
We
just
need to
trying to
take you
think
there.
if I was in Taskmaster
Okay.
or not.
They put tires on the rims, sell the whole complete
Yeah.
thing, right?
For what industry?
I don't know.
The utility industry, the UV industry. So all your toy trailers and all those types of things. This industry was the first. This company was the first industry to bring to market a fully automated process of marrying the rubber, the tire, to the hub and balance it. And most utility vehicles or utility trailers and things, they're not balanced rims. They don't have to be. It's not an industry standard. Now, you know the difference between a balanced wheel and an unbalanced wheel in a car, right? Trailers typically don't have to have balance, but they can do that all in an automated process. We brought them up here because one, it was an emerging industry. But two, what's just west of us?
The entire RV industry, pretty much.
So we brought them from Texarkana, Texas. Not a big employer, but they fit a market. They took over the AAA building. Anybody familiar with that old building?
Oh, I did go in there. Yes.
Remember what was in it before Taskmaster got in there?
Is it like scrap?
Eric, do you remember?
Was it insulation?
There was an oil pit
Oh,
It
before
was
that.
like a big.
that needed to be remediated before any other business could come in.
Don't they scrap metal and,
Yeah.
yeah.
So in that case, we worked with that company. Not only did we bring them in, we rehabbed the building that physically stays. It can't take the building, but took care of that oil pit. So that's the stuff. When we talk about very specialized and very unique, trying to solve needs that sometimes don't get the headlines of the news and shouldn't, quite honestly. But, so John, did that answer the question?
I think so.
Okay, a roundabout way. You want to talk about electricity now?
You know what? I just want to know if we have enough and when we're going to have enough. I think that's everybody's question, right?
I think a couple years ago.
I guess
Go ahead.
to summarize, the natural gas standard is actually, there is a plan in place. And we will know more by next year at this time,
We will know more by the end of the spring.
by the end of the spring. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, if things go well, we will be able to start saying yes to people within about 3 or 4 years.
I could start with build time, and Eric knows this because this is what he used to do. Some of these corporations need 24 to 36 month build time.
Yep.
So I'm right in the sweet spot of being able to say, be satisfied a need. We know the capacity now, we can go.
Okay.
So as
And
this
there's
comes
some
online.
light
we can bring
commercial
companies
that
online.
is coming that we can still
And
support
is
now.
it specified to the point of we know the delivery point and we know what the local build out will be?
The routing of that pipe is not public. It's protected by an NDA, but I can tell you that we are well aware
Okay.
of where that general vicinity is and how it can be delivered to the endpoints of where it needs to be.
Okay.
But think about it this way, you correct me if I'm wrong, but the infrastructure in our county is here, we just don't have anything to get it to it. So it's not like once it gets here, we have to do a whole bunch of more other stuff.
You bring up a good point. I'll use this analogy. So I often will use anatomy. And let me go back 1 second to where I started from. I started my economic development career in Defiance County, Ohio. The uniqueness there is not because it's a Buckeye or I'm a Buckeye or a Buckeye State. The uniqueness is 4 or 5 of the major pipelines that flow natural gas to the U.S. crisscross in Defiance County. And I knew that. I knew that coming to this location. The problem's not that we can't get the gas. The problem is an anatomy problem. So think of the heart being where that facility is and all the arteries that go into it. And as you flow into Steuben County and where it needs to be, you're now at your fingertip. You're at capillaries. You just can't get that amount of flow through there. So there's bottlenecks along the way. This builds kind of a bypass closer to us so that now we can talk about local infrastructure. And say,
There may be local bottlenecks, but they are smaller in
the
scale.
cost to construct on those projects would make a ton of sense, in my opinion, as limited as it is on gas infrastructure. It makes more sense there than it does doing 6-7 mile away projects.
These guys were paying $1 million to $500,000 and nothing was done on their site.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the bottleneck was somewhere else.
Right.
But I mean, like, it all, you have to overcome the friction everywhere and you just go for the spot with the biggest friction to try to.
And I will say in my 9 years, this is the closest we've been to a solution that's feasible, that's doing right by the taxpayers as well as the ratepayers, which I will argue are the same person.
I hate to,
Utilities don't always, but
I hate to be a pessimist, but
No, please do. I've been the whole time.
well, if this doesn't work out, what do we have for a plan B?
There are luckily enough of our legislature, as well as now the IURC Commission, which has been totally makeover. There are 3 brand new IURC commissioners on that commission of 5 that are appointed by the governor that are well aware of our project, and others around the state that are very similar to ours. So that's why you see a lot of emphasis being placed at the state on utility companies' affordability and pushing a little bit back on them. I will say it, most don't like it, and I know I'm publicly saying it right now. Regulated environments like this are controlled monopolies.
Yeah.
There's no other way you can put it. Now, most utility companies don't like that, but it is. There's a process in place that prohibits competition in the area. And with limited competition, as a business owner, you might not have to do certain things, in theory, right? You might not have to compete so hard. You might not have to respond so fast.
You might not have to play nice in the sandbox.
Thank you for saying that. These are things that we've experienced and others across the state have. So there's definitely a different environment from the legislative side that we did not have before.
Okay, so the outlook is good, right? But
For the first time
is
in a
there,
long time.
is there a plan B ever? Like, or is this the only option? Because it is a,
Being a regulated state, it is the only option. We have to play with, in this case, in this specific utility, with NIPSCO. On the electric side, we have some options, but they're still limited.
but like building up our own capacitor system.
The moment you service let's say the city of Angola wanted to set up a gas system, they could, just like water and sewer. You have to build your own infrastructure because that could not be utilized by NIPSCO's pipes.
We don't know.
Exactly.
All right.
And NIPSCO wouldn't, I don't see it, not just NIPSCO, I don't see any other gas utility in the state subleasing space on their pipes to do a municipal owned gas system. The moment you also service more than 2 customers, you're under IURC's regulated body. You have to conform to their piece. We did investigate that, and actually in one community, we got to about $26 million of infrastructure costs and realized we're back at this solution.
Back to plan A. Okay.
And there are communities with like residential issues with gas saying we're gonna start allowing above ground tanks or buried tanks. There are some that, you know, we have some industries that are.
Right. That's what, I mean, that's
it
kind
is
of
happening.
what the
So
MB is
you're not-
you just
yeah.
build up capacitance so you can get some flow when the usage is low so that you can drain it down when the usage is high.
This topic in the last 5 years has made me so mad at times that I can't even see straight. But it doesn't, but it's not my livelihood. I can't imagine how he feels. I mean, I just can't even imagine.
Well, but imagine the excitement as well. So we've talked about, hey, how do we get momentum? What do? We just did something tonight. You know, we did our district. That was a big thing. Now we just did something tonight. Isaac's been working on this for years and now something is happening. So talk about building that momentum and
I wish I could
excitement.
show excitement, but some of it's protected by an NDA, so I can't tell anything.
So, but John and the rest of the group, and Mark's right, Mark's seen some of this being on our exec committee of our board, now as our treasurer. There have been some really big struggles with this process. And coming from another state that's not regulated, I'm not telling you that's the answer. A lot of people say, well, let's just deregulate. That's not the answer. In a regulatory environment, it's actually better if your legislature owns up and has a backbone and makes sure they stand between the utility and the consumer. I, on my uneducated professional opinion, don't believe that's always been the case. I think they've kind of removed themselves and not really monitored what our utilities should have been doing all along. Again, uneducated professional opinion. That's been part of the problem. So we are in a much better place over the last 9 years than we've ever been. I'm more excited about it today. We're closer to a solution. We know more about the solution. But it's been on our minds, as Mark said, for a long time.
Okay, now answer your electric.
We're going to electric, and I apologize, I will leave at 4:30, I will be late for it.
Well, I can make this one shorter.
Good.
So on the electricity side, we took some learnings from the gas conversation, and we started to talk with our utility companies that provide electricity. You should know, if you don't already know, there's 2 69 kV lines that feed our county right now. 69 kV lines don't feed everything forever. All right. This is why we haven't talked to projects that have generated more or needed more than 5 megawatts at any given site. 5 megawatts today was talking about a megawatt of power just a year ago on most projects. Matter of fact, this year, over the last 18 months, if we took an average, most of our projects we're getting from the state are averaging north of 10 megawatts of power. That's a lot. To give you some comparison, our county uses about 65 megawatts a year. So
That's steady state.
that's a steady state across all 3 metrics: residential, industrial, and consumer.
You generally have to design the infrastructure for peak demand, right?
Yes, but there's also agreements with most utility companies that can shut you off during peak seasons. And we have, in my opinion, too many critical industries getting infrastructure delays and blips that shut things down. Think of Cameron Hospital and their MRI machine, or heart monitors on patients during times of inclement weather. We are in Indiana. We do have those. We also have cold weather. And cold weather typically is more on the gas side. But these are things that should not happen. So when we started to learn some details about bottlenecks on the gas side, we applied the same methodology to the electricity side. So we've been working, and in some cases better, with other organizations, other utility partners. We benefit from the fact that we've got really three, in my opinion, but two utility companies that provide us electricity. In your communities, it's typically NIPSCO. In your rural markets, it's typically REMC, who's backed by Wabash Valley Power. Interestingly enough, though, the majority of REMC's power is transmitted on NIPSCO's lines. So, you still have similar issues. What we've been trying to do is, over time and over projects, we've been trying to find ways to upgrade those two 69 kV lines. The closest site that we had was a site about 5 miles outside of the county through one of the utility providers, and I can't name which one, that could upgrade it, but it was at a price of about $1.2 million per mile. So just getting it into the county was 5 miles. You do the math, it was almost $6 million, a little over $6 million. At the time, which was about 4 years ago. That infrastructure cost is a lot higher today. And that was just to the county. Wherever we get it to in the county has to do a substation down to get it to consumer level, which is usually 69 kV or lower. In this one, we got actually a blessing out of nowhere. Large conversations on MISO and PJM. Are you familiar with those two networks? MISO and PJM are your multi-state regulatory bodies that handle the transmission. They don't generally talk to an end consumer. They're just talking about major transmission flows from generation sites to anywhere it needs to be done in the states. Okay? Our territory is typically covered by MISO. Spelled like miso soup, because I've had a couple people say it's miso. No, they say it's MISO. And I like miso soup. So we got a benefit kind of out of thin air about a year and a half ago of some talks about what was called MISO's Tranche 2.1. It's a multi-trillion-dollar project of building in some redundancy and adding capacity through upgrading some lines and building new lines so that we didn't have rolling blackouts. You all heard of those in the early 2000s. Rolling blackouts, probably experienced them. This was to try to address those things. Embedded is a small little project called Hipple to Helix, which is what I showed you, or what I prepared for you. Public Transmission contacted our county commissioners about a year ago and said, this is a project we're looking at. We don't know the route, but we know the two endpoints. So Hipple is actually the substation just northwest of Topeka in LaGrange County. Helix is a substation up in Michigan. The 2 points that we know of right now is a site where this line would cross over from Michigan into Indiana, northeast of Orland, about where the tornado went through a couple years ago and kind of laid some trees down. From there, it needs to get to Topeka. I'm stressing and arguing with this company, I shouldn't say arguing, suggesting with this company that the more that we can get a 345 kV line to go through our county, the more capacity we have. I just told you a moment ago, 269 kV lines. This is a 345 kV line. What it looks like is it has 6 circuits, 3 on each side with an optic line up the top. They generally go up between 45 and 75 feet. They don't necessarily have to have a large footprint underneath. So the big lines you see around Fort Wayne right now, those are larger than this. And the footprints that you see in the fields are larger. This can have a pretty narrow footprint. What transmits across that line at any given time is roughly about 2,000 megawatts of power. Just told you the county uses about 65.
2 gigawatts, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
Gig or meg?
so megawatts, 1,000 megawatts is a
2 gigs, you said, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I should maybe say it that way. Now, consumers themselves can't get access to this, but we have approached a couple different entities to talk about what it would take to either add generational sites within the county to put onto the line, which then gives a substation to drop it down, which is really what you need, or just talk about let's put a substation in to drop it down, and then from that point upgrade the lines to where they need to be done. Because then it's cheaper to build from that substation because it's already in the county to anywhere we need it to be.
What would availability be though? I mean, you talk about what's on those lines, but what would be available? I mean, it's going.
It'd be the same way the gas systems and electricity systems work now. It's a commodity. So they buy a block usage of utility. And then on the flip end, any utility company's not in the business of putting that inventory up on a shelf and forgetting about it.
Right.
They're more of a just-in-time distributor, essentially.
Correct.
So if the model's there, they can buy more of the block. So the fact that we have access to it, the bottleneck's eliminated. Right now, our utilities, we're restricted by the fact that it's a 69 kV. So we already know there's a limit of what we can get into the county, and we're approaching it. I'm not saying we're there.
Most utility companies won't tell me what that megawatt is.
The fact that our projects right now and most of our sites can't handle more than 5 megawatts without infrastructure improvements, significant ones, kind of gives me an idea.
No, I follow that, but their plan is not to stop along the way. I mean, let's just.
This type of transportation would not.
Correct.
But
So
it does-
They feel like it pays for itself without stopping. So I mean, they have buyers along the way.
Yes.
Can we become one of the? I mean, that's the question I'm asking. Is it really probable that we would be able to be a buyer of that? Like, is there capacity over there for us to grab that buyer? Does that make sense?
We, the government, we, the people, we, the consumer, no. Utility partners like NIPSCO, Wabash Valley Power, REMC, yes. And we've already worked with Republic Transmission on asking questions about whether or not that could be an option. It's cheaper to add that into the plan now than it is during construction. So I'll talk about, adding a 3rd bathroom in a 2-bathroom home. You'd want to know where that piping would need to go, right? Especially if it's a slab, because then you'd have to break up concrete to put the sewer line in. We want to avoid that. We want to say, hey, it's likely we could have a substation at this location drop down. Can we prepare for that? So when you build this line right past the site, can you make sure the infrastructure on the lines themselves is there so that we can drop it down?
So where are they at in the process of, they have to do a T-disc for this?
So this is totally different because it's multi-state. It's regulated. It's already approved from point to point.
But if NIPSCO wants to jump on and be that one negotiating, they have to do it. They're gonna probably ask.
Utility companies are having those conversations
Okay.
now. Yes, but they would be the ones. Wabash Valley Power IMC would have to be the ones that have the conversation. You'll see Republic Transmission through a company called LS Power Grid or LS Power Company, probably have public meetings this summer about this. And at that point, they may choose to talk about preferred routes. I'm just arguing the more mileage that I can get, or that we can get as a county of this type of line in our backyard. And I know it's not, it might be fascinating to look at, but it's definitely not appealing sometimes to look at some of this infrastructure. We will run into a bottleneck soon. And our major goal in economic development is to broaden tax base. What does that do for you? Keeps your tax bills low. Period. Without power, I can't do that anymore. And that's both gas and electric. I can't guarantee that we're working with every capacity to lower your tax rates, or at least keep them low as we broaden the base that pays for the things. So we're trying to be a little bit more proactive. This is a little bit of a blessing because we don't have to go very far. It's already hitting our county. I just want to make sure it gets far enough into our county that it impacts us positively.
These are both important, but is the electric project as important as the NIPSCO project?
I think they are equally important. I was fearful early on in the NIPSCO process that when we were talking about gas, that I was going to turn around once we saw the gas thing, I don't have to worry about this. Both of these projects now, funny, have the same timeline. As you see, anticipated energization, 2030. We went from, like I said, not really having solutions on either to both of them hitting the market in theory by the end of 2030. That might be all my lucky chips, Mark, that I have the rest of my life. And I'm not that darn lucky, so it's kind of interesting how these things kind of now are running almost in parallel.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
It's arguable. I mean, there are institutions in town that are talking about building AI infrastructure. It's really this be hard.
So let me address that. AI infrastructure can be at many different capacities. It doesn't necessarily have to be a data center. We have companies that are using AI in robotics. That's been around for years. We have companies using different softwares that now have automated process. That's AI. It's been around for years. I can tell you holistically that our companies are not using AI to replace jobs. It's to modernize some of their jobs, because what we haven't had for a long time because of our gas and electricity issues are belly buttons, people. So those are local stats that we are getting from our BR&E visits. We have open positions right now that we're monitoring of about 600. We don't have 600 people. And most of these skill sets, 70% of those jobs require only a GED. That's not where they stop, by the way. So the idea that, in one side, automation is going to take away jobs, I'm not a believer of that. I'll take criticisms and I'll take others' opinions, but what I see in the stats that I see and the people that I talk to, I haven't seen that. Also, what I will tell you, the idea that a data center coming to our community, not on a megawatt of power, not on 5 megawatts. You're talking huge data centers that use hundreds of megawatts. That's not us. Edge computing could be, but those are small data centers and basements that you'd never even know was there. No different than mining operations. We've got a few in our county. You wouldn't even know they're there, other than the large utility pole maybe out front.
But this is the time to spur that momentum.
But yes, you're right.
So I just, and like what Isaac said, when you're doing build outs or they're going to the state for potential abatements or things like that, that takes a year or two. So this is the time for us to say, hey, we believe we're ready for growth, for new industries, for looking at things that we haven't looked at for years, just because they've looked at us, but we haven't sought after it because we couldn't sustain them. So I think we are.
Things that I think diversify, and John, I'm glad you asked that question, because it kind of points to, okay, what would we go after? Maybe that's kind of where I was leading to. There's a market that I've always thought would work well for our community because of where we sit, what makes up our community, what supplements, what diversifies us a little bit enough that would make sense, especially during COVID, what we saw that we're still seeing today. And that's cold storage. We're seeing a lot of cold storage projects pop up because it's about getting product to the consumer faster. Before COVID, it was really about these major facilities being based in one hub, and then multiple states away, you'd have transportation. We're now seeing smaller footprints. Cold storage is one of those. Logistics is another. Advanced manufacturing that uses cobots and robots alongside human capital are things that we're already getting experience on. You can dive deeper in industries like specialty metals, whether it be univertical or precision's edge. There's a whole host of things that we used in our strategic plan that was released in 2023 that kind of addresses our process in terms of who we want to go after. What you won't find is necessarily specific, large, intense electricity or gas users, because at the time we didn't have solutions.
I'm gonna step out. I'm already late. Yep. This has been good. Appreciate it. I think this is what we wanted out of it, right?
I think so. Mark hears it enough for me, so.
You guys can continue the meeting, or we can make a motion to adjourn, but I know I have to.
That's up to you guys. Do you have more questions for Isaac?
My questions answered at this point.
Do you?
Very informative.
Thank you, Isaac, so much. And we will probably have you back.
John made a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second on the table. Bill seconds.
So second
Favor?
it.
Okay, good.
Thanks,
Thanks, Isaac.
Bye, Eric. Thank you.
Sorry, rush off.